Good morning, good afternoon. All right. Good afternoon, Key. I see some other thumbs up. Happy Sunday. I'm glad you're here, Key. All right. Giving it a few minutes for folks to join. I didn't do my advertising on Instagram, just on YouTube this morning. I wasn't exactly sure I was going live today, so I'll give it a few minutes just in case others are not aware we are here. And then if not, we don't have others to join, I will kick it off and we'll get started in conversation. Happy Sunday. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I see some eyes watching. I see some thumbs up, 4 thumbs up. I don't see them in the chat, but I'm glad you're here. Oh, hello, Robert. You've been missed the last couple of weeks. Glad to have you here Sunday. Thank you. All right, I'll do my intro while we're waiting for others to gather. And then we'll get started and go with what we have today. All right, so as I introduce myself, good morning or good afternoon, depending on your location. My name is Jewel Pearson. This is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. This is Creating Home, a tiny house series, and the segment that we are about to kick off is our community conversation, where we're just literally sharing in community. The other two segments I alternate between on Sundays as the conversations on intimate spaces where we're interviewing someone in and around the tiny house movement. And then the What's Your Question segment where I usually have a prepared topic, a question from someone in the community that I'm addressing and sharing some information on. As I introduce myself, I like to say that I built a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015. And since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer consultations and coaching to help others in their tiny house journey, and you will find links in the video description to be able to schedule with me once the video goes live and once I catch up on my content. I'm a lot delinquent. And as I'm doing all of that, I like to say that I serve up a lot of representation in the movement along the way. I want us to see ourselves. I want us to be able to share our journeys and our challenges and our wins and all of the things and see ourselves in this movement. It is my intent to build figurative and literal community that is inclusive and accessible. And if you find this information helpful, the video helpful, I hope you will like it, you'll share it, you'll subscribe to the channel, and then be sure to turn on the notification so that you'll know when we're here and we're going live. All right. Grand Rising from Jacksonville. Hello, Linda. Welcome. Key says the internet is lagging today, but she is here. Your internet or my internet, Key? I am actually traveling at family's house, so if my internet is lagging, I apologize. Maybe I can do some, maybe just let me know. Good afternoon, El Bell. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Good morning, Judith from California. Happy Sunday to you. Grand Rising, Rachel. Thank you so much. KC, happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday to you as well. Glad to hear I look rested. I did sleep really well. I am at a cousin's house. I came to spend some time with her yesterday afternoon and spent the night. I'm leaving a little bit later in the afternoon, and I did sleep well. Even though we stayed up really late talking, so I'm glad I look rested. Thank you very much. All right, so I don't have a planned session of content today. I just figured we'd be chatting in our community conversation as we do. Just kind of updating you all on where I've been. If anybody's looking at my Crystal called me out, and she's missing today, but Crystal called me out to say my YouTube content hadn't been updated, and I can share that I have been doing what I have considered ostriching. I have just really had my head stuck in the ground, just avoiding all of the things, not doing anything, but head racing of all the things that I've needed to do. So I am getting out of that and working on updating all of the things. Health wise, I am still navigating this journey. I still have a number of appointments with the cardiologist to figure out what they're doing, if they're doing anything with, as I've shared, that small hole that I have, the PFO is what it's called. Some additional discovery work, test, all of those things. And I am on medical leave from work, just got that extended. But for me, I don't necessarily want to use the word uncomfortable, but uncharted territory, I guess is the best way to say it. It is uncomfortable, so I guess I could use that word, with a lot of, when you're used to kind of knowing what you're doing, even if it's not, working, there's some routine in everything that I've been doing, even if it hasn't been the best routine, and things kind of are up in the air. And um, I have been in avoidance or ostriching, as I've said, just kind of, maybe even if I were to think through it, maybe even, and I've shared this before, even kind of in a place of uncomfortableness and fear, when things are happening and kind of swirling around that you don't have all of the control over, when you're used to controlling things, and that's not necessarily the best um, way to move through life, but it is how I've moved through life for the most part. Um, I have to think about that, because you think you're in control, but you're never really in control. Um, so that's where I've been. And I am moving through that, recognizing it. Like they say, recognition is the first step. So moving through that uncomfortableness and the fear, and talking to a counselor. She's amazing. And understanding the things that I want to put out in the atmosphere, the ways I want to move, the things I want to do, the things that I don't want to do, the things that I know I want to do, to focus on my joy and the things that bring me passion, and kind of growing those things, not kind of growing those things, but then also the fear in, if you operate from a place of high standards for yourself, and what I would probably say um, a need for perfection, even though that's absolutely not the best way to go about it, but it is, the standard I hold for myself. And so it's trying to navigate all of the things that don't necessarily work in my best interest, and forge forward in this new space, and figure it all out. So, at a level of sharing, that's kind of where I've been. Doing the thing now, I'm focused on doing the things that move me through those spaces, my meditation, reading, less social media, which is why my social media is probably in a shambles, even though I need social media to move my business forward. So it is a circle of challenge that I'm navigating through. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. And I'm gonna figure it out. I was trying to find this quote that just came to my head, and I know it's gonna pop up. I'm gonna find it right now. But that's it. Okay, Key. So it's your internet, not mine. Okay, so this is the quote. It's Marianne Williamson's quote. Um, Sometimes it's cited as being from Nelson Mandela, but I learned a few years ago that it's not from him. But the quote is, That our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And I think that's really true. That sometimes it's not that you're feeling inadequate. It's almost like a sabotage of greatness where you're just scared to do the things because it's not something. It's a new territory and it's something that you're not really familiar with. So that is a quote. The quote that just popped into my head is as I was thinking through all of the things that I've been working through these last few weeks and still working through. Um, what else? I had something else to say. Um, and it's always interesting for me to navigate this space, especially as I share, as I'm navigating the space, that space of um, uncomfortableness and what's next and how is this going to work out. I'm always sitting in my house that I built from a trailer up, designed and built from a trailer up, and then did the same as I added the sunroom space and the screened-in porch. And so it's not like I don't know that I can do um, hard and interesting things. Um, so that is it the juxtaposition that I find myself in as I'm sitting concerned about things and sitting in a house that I absolutely developed from nothing, from a trailer that I went and sourced and dreamed up in my head. Um, so that's always an interesting position. Hey, Tashay. Hey, Miss Jewel, I'm loving the transparency. I can definitely relate. It always works out because you're the one. Thank you so much. It's good to have you here. Thank you. I mean, I feel like I don't know anything other than transparency. That is one of the things I struggle with social media because um, it it's the highlight reel of the best 5-10 minutes of life that people are presenting, and when you're not in that space, if that's still what you're presenting, the fakeness of that is something that really bothers me. So I always want to be honest and real and transparent, and so there's the conflict with the expectations of social media, but I thank you for that. Yes, Casey, perfectionism can paralyze you. Sometimes you have to learn and perfect as you go. And I can honestly say that is why I called out, like I recognize my need for perfectionism. It's not a standard that I hold anyone else to. It is the standard that I hold myself to. Like I think about raising my daughter, and she has some of that herself. And she'd come home and she'd be upset about a grade. And she always made excellent grades, but she'd be upset about a grade. Maybe it was a B and she wanted an A. And my thing to her, like I always had to be the cheerleader for her because she held herself to a standard like that. And I would say, ask her, did you do your best? And she said, yeah, I did my best. And so I would be like, well, that's all anyone can expect from you. You see, my glasses are fogging up. That's all I can expect from you, and that's all you should expect from yourself. If you know you've done your best, then that's it. That's the end of the conversation. It doesn't have to be an A. If you got a B and you feel like and you know you did your best, then that's it. And so that's the grace that I offer to others, but it's not the grace that I always offer to myself. And that is, again, the first step is recognition, and then the second step is doing something about it. And I have seen my level of perfectionism in the app that I'm rolling out for the cooperative communities. I have been dragging on that because I have this standard for how I want it to be before it rolls out. And I have had to have conversation with myself these last few days that obviously there are going to be some things that need to be tweaked once it goes live and it's operating, and I'm finding things out as it people are using it. That's just what happens. And so I've had to have conversation with myself that it's not going to be perfect when you roll it out, and I have to make peace with that and get out of my own way to roll it out, because obviously as I'm trying to grow all of the things that I want to do, that's one big major thing that can be a source of income for me, and a source of good use for the community. So absolutely, perfectionism can paralyze you, because I have delayed even kind of looking at the site for maybe 3 weeks, because I've just in my head had things swirling around that I didn't feel like it was at the level of where it needed to be, and so I just went into avoidance mode, where I've been saying the the ostriching, where ostriches just stick their head in the sand or in the dirt to avoid things, and that's what I've been doing. It's easier to avoid stuff. Good morning, Teresa. I hope you are feeling better. Hey, Day. Good afternoon from Miami. um Kia saying, yes, that piece is by Marianne Williamson, and the whole piece is very enlightening. I think I'll share it later today. Absolutely. I heard that whole, like you're saying, that whole poem that she's written is a really, really good poem. Because it's it's not our fear of inadequacy, it's our fear of greatness, it's our fear of getting out there and just doing something so amazing, and maybe like swirling out of control. um and I understand that, and I can really relate to that. And that quote always kind of sticks in my head when you finally understand, what she's saying, because sometimes you really feel like it is about inadequacy, but it is not. It is about greatness, and holding your shine, blocking your own shine, or trying to stay at a standard to dim your light, because you're scared of once you propel into that other atmosphere, almost you're scared of what that looks like. And there's so many people who will sabotage their own greatness, and that is the same thing in that fear of inadequacy, in fear, not fear of inadequacy, but fear of greatness. Hi, Kitty. Happy Sunday to you in San Diego. Hi, Ansel. Happy to have you here. Good morning. And Teresa saying, yes, the struggle is real every day, all day. Absolutely. And society doesn't make it any better. It's a conversation that who was I talking to? One of my young, younger friends, a business owner, and she's my daughter's age, and she was just talking about um, she's at the pinnacle of her business, but not finding happiness right now. And as she kept talking, what she was expressing was the fact that so much of her unhappiness was coming from comparing where she is in life to um, other people's social media highlight reels. And we talked about that, how you get this 5-10 minute clip of somebody's social media clip, and but behind the scenes, none of that is true, or it's not exactly the right um it's not exactly accurate for where their life is. Or you see, if your interest is in marriage and a couple, and so you see all these couples who are doing all of the things on social media, but then behind the scenes they really aren't the happy couple. They've got some nonsense going on, just like everybody else does. But here you find yourself comparing yourself to, or your lack of relationship to, their 5-minute clip of love and all of the things, but behind the scenes they really suck and hate each other, but they're doing it for social media. And so we talked about that, and how some of the challenges, and studies have shown that especially for young people, so much depression that's happening right now is associated with social media, and what that does to our mindset and our emotions. And so that's something that we really have to be aware of, and keep in our mind. Hi, Wayne. Good morning to you. Oh, Wayne is saying Grand Rising, Southern Texas is 80 degrees. Good gracious, I need to get out of out of my area. I need some sunshine and 80-degree weather. Hi, Kitty. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much. Casey, yes, fear of success. And that's a real thing. And it's as goofy as it sounds. Like, why would someone be scared of success? But it is an absolute thing. And so, yeah, and Rosalind is saying it's a matter of getting out of our own way. I struggle with that as well. I have been these last 3 weeks as I look at the things that are piled up on my to-do list. I can't blame them. I can't blame them on I had to work because I'm not working right now on being on medical leave. Um, I have felt okay. I've had lots of doctor appointments, but I have been in my own way, and I know that. And so it is, but the other thing is that I just keep coming back to is grace. And so I have a tattoo right here on the base of my neck, and it is kanji letters, Chinese letters, and it represents God's grace. And it is a tattoo that I got in probably 2008. So I think I've shared in 2007, I experienced blood clots in both of my lungs. And I had had them um, they started like on a Wednesday, a really severe pain in my left, under my, it's like my breastbone, severe pain. And I thought I had pulled a muscle working out. And so from Wednesday to Friday evening. Like it was the pain was so severe, I could only I couldn't sit up straight, and I was working in the office at that time. So I was riding with a friend of mine, and I would just be bent over in pain. Worked all day. Friday on the way home, my friend was saying, if you're not feeling any better tomorrow, I'm going to give you a muscle relaxer because again, I thought I had pulled a muscle. Um, and so I said, okay, I was going to take the muscle relaxer. And then about 2, 3 in the morning, that Saturday morning, I woke up and I was trying to catch my breath. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest, cutting off my oxygen. And so I got up and drove myself to the emergency room. And at that time, I was this person, like I got to the emergency room and I told them that I had a pulled muscle and I needed them to give me a muscle relaxer. And that day, later that Saturday, I was supposed to be meeting my sister to get my nieces and nephew. And so I was on a timeline and I didn't have time to waste in the emergency room. So I was telling them all the things that they needed to do for their job, get a prescription for muscle relaxers, and I needed to get out of there because I was meeting a friend to go shopping, and then I was going to drive to meet my sister halfway between Atlanta to get my nieces and nephew. And the doctor was like, "Yeah, okay." He said, um, "It does sound like you have a pulled muscle." He said, "But let us do a CAT scan and an MRI just to double check." And I was irritated, like, why are you wasting my time? Just give me a muscle relaxer. And so I went in and was back in the back of the ER and was irritated that I'm back in. As you go back further in the hospital, sometimes you don't have phone signal. So my phone wasn't working and I couldn't text anybody to say, because by this time it's maybe 7 in the morning. So I couldn't text my girlfriend to say I was at the ER and I was going to need to meet her later to connect to go shopping. So I'm irritated that all of these things are happening. And at some point, my phone worked. So I got a text out to her to say, I'm in the ER waiting for them. And then I'll call you so we can meet. And about that same time that I got that text out, this woman came in, a doctor, and I saw her this one time and this one time only. She was not my doctor. It was a Russian woman, a kind of big lady. And I would say she had zero bedside manner. I never saw her again. And she came in and she said, you have bunches of blood clots in both of your lungs. And she said, most people drop dead from one blood clot within 24 hours. And she said, you've got bunches and you apparently have had them for about 72 hours. She said, if I were you, I'd lay very still until we can get some medicine in you. And I'm just looking at her like, oh shit. um, and then I can't cry because she said, you better lay very still. Like I wanted to panic, but I did hear her say, lay very still until we can get some medicine in you. And I did exactly what she said, laid very still. And my life changed from that point forward. I was in the hospital for 6 days. Um, from that point forward, I had to take a blood thinner for 9 months. I had to go to the doctor every single day for them to check my blood levels and adjust. I was on Coumadin, which is one of the worst blood thinners in life. Coumadin is the ingredient in rat poison. It is what rats eat, and then they go bleed out somewhere and die. So Coumadin is really, it works. It's a blood thinner, but it's very harsh, and it's not one of the, if you can say medicine is good in any way, it's not one of the better ones. But I had to take that, and I went to the doctor every day for them to prick my finger. As it got later in the 9 months, I think I went every other day, but I had to go for them to prick my finger and to check my blood levels and adjust how much Coumadin I had to take. And my life changed. My life changed from the perspective of rushing and how I operated and letting people do their jobs and paying attention to my body for the first thing. Because like she said, I'd had those things for 72 hours, if not more. And later on, there was a case in Atlanta where a young woman who had been pregnant and had had severe pain, but they couldn't do MRIs and um, things, and she had a blood clot, and she ended up dying from one blood clot, and it was a court case because the ambulance was sent to the wrong address or something like that. So in this case and on the news, they kept playing this clip of her calling 911 and how she was just trying to get some help, but she couldn't catch her breath. And I remember being in that when I drove myself to the emergency room. I didn't even call 911 because that's how controlling I was. Um, I remember that. And so she died from this one blood clot. And I then had seen all of my scans, and I could see because there was scar tissue from that. And so I could see that I'd had bunches of clots in both of my lungs. So I wasn't supposed to, I shouldn't have lived from that experience because it was major. And so this stroke, mini stroke that I experienced is also as a result of this PFO, this hole in my heart, and then this a blood clot again, like the perfect storm of the, as my new doctor has explained, this hole. It's the for one in four people when this hole doesn't close up completely. He's kind of explained that I have something that's flapping over where it's not a permanent cover. And he explained it as kind of like a screen door. So it's flapping. And so the perfect storm of a blood clot passing as this thing was flapping and going out. And so I've had two major life experiences that should have taken me out. Absolutely. And as my cardiologist said, as he went through all of the medical side of it, once he was done with that, he said, okay, I'm done with the medical diagnosis. He said, but I don't know what your faith is. But he says, I want to say to you that God is talking to you, and I hope that you're listening. Um, and I am. Um, and so after 2007, I got this tattoo on the back of my neck, and it's grace, and it's God's grace, because that was exactly what allowed me to live through that experience in 2007. And as I was coming out of the cardiologist's office the other week, my appointment with him, and it was a really, really good appointment as he was talking through all of the things. And he was very thorough, but also on my level. He explained everything on my level. And when I came out of when I was leaving and headed to the car and kind of just in my head processing everything that I had experienced, and he had put, like I said, he had said to me, I'm looking in 2007, you had blood clots, and he said that was major. And he said, now you've had this experience with another blood clot, and this was a major experience. And that's when he said, God is talking to you, and I hope you're listening. And so, as I was walking to the car, I was on the elevator with this older gentleman. And as I got out of the elevator. He was behind me. He asked me he said, "What does that say on your back?" And I thought he was talking about my sweatshirt, something that was on my sweatshirt. And then I realized there was nothing on my sweatshirt. And I realized he was talking to me about my tattoo. And so I said, "Grace." And I said it represents God's grace. And I explained to him at a very quick level, how I'd gotten it. And here I was again dealing with a blood clot in a major experience. And so um, that was, nobody has asked me what that thing represents for many, many years. Like I sometimes even forget that I have it back there. So I knew, like this past week, as I've been trying to sort through all of the things, there have been different things that I know have been signs from the divine source to say, keep moving. You're doing the things. This is a new direction. Like I'm here, and just keep moving. And that was one of the things, because I absolutely had just been focused on the fact that it was grace that has gotten me through both of these things. And so that man just calling it out is like, what does that say on your back? And it's just like those little things that just keep happening to remind me that the divine, the universe is listening, and I just have to put in the work and do some trusting, do some more trusting. Is where I am. um Angela saying, "Preach, these highlight reels are very misleading." Yes, and they'll have you all in your head space, your emotions, your mental space, and just feel like you are not adequate. You're not doing the things, you're not doing the work, and they're not real. So yeah. Um Wayne says, Wayne is saying, "First thing, my people, stop comparing your life to others. That's a toxic state of mind. Be you and do you." Ashe. And that is absolutely right. Stop comparing your life to others. But when you're bombarded with social media, and we all know that there's a sickness associated, like um the Netflix, I can't think of what the name of the Netflix thing is about Facebook, and the people who created Facebook, and how they don't even let their families use Facebook. They don't use social media because they knew they created something that wasn't their intention in the beginning, but it has turned into something very toxic. And so um, there is something that happens from a mental health perspective, even when you're not intending to compare your life to others, that it happens because of the fragility of the mind and the way things work and play on your psyche. So whether it is intentional or not is up for debate, but it happens. And it is definitely something that people have to focus on, to not compare themselves to other. And it's not something that happens easily, for sure. It is, obviously that's the common sense part of it, but there's something that happens that gets lost in the translation, because social media is so ingrained in our lives, as so many things are ingrained in our lives that aren't good for us. And it is one of the things that we all have to fight against, but it is society as it is today. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Frederick. Welcome. Teresa is saying Coumadin is the devil, the absolute devil. And I had to deal with the devil for 9 months to save my life. But I, um, I was so weak during that time period. My um, skin color was different. I was exhausted. It is exactly when I first started working from home, because the danger of, and I still am dealing with that now as I take something else that is not a blood thinner, but an anticoagulant. Um, there's the risk, if you get cut and your blood isn't clotting, you have to be careful from cuts. So washing dishes, you have to be careful with knives and glass in case a glass breaks, and you have to be careful in driving, because if you have an accident and you're injured in the accident, you have the potential to bleed out because your blood's not clotting. And so that's exactly when I first started working from home, because I was in such a weakened state from what was going on, and then dealing with Coumadin. So yeah, an absolute blessing, absolutely. Yes, Robert. Russians are very direct. I never saw that woman again. Like she wasn't my doctor. It was like maybe she was the messenger that they assigned to the hospital to go deliver the hard news because she walked in. She was not smiling. She wouldn't do anything. She just walked in and delivered the news, and she was like, "You have bunches of blood clots in both of your lungs." Most people drop dead from one clot within 24 hours. You have multiples. If I were you, I would lay very still. That was the extent of our conversation. She delivered it. She asked me if I had any questions. she she turned around and walked out, and that was the end of it. I never saw her again. But I understood exactly what she said, and I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't do anything until they got in there and started. And then the other doctor who I had been talking to came in and started doing all the things they um, told me because I had been trying to negotiate because he had initially said, I think you have a blood clot. So I was like, well, what does that mean? How long will I have to stay in the hospital? So he said at least a day or two. So I'm negotiating with him. Well, can I maybe stay a day? Because I got somewhere to be. I got to get my nieces and nephews. So I'm trying to negotiate my hospital stay. And then after that lady came in, it was like, okay, negotiations are over. Let me be quiet and do what they say. And I was there for 6 days. And like I said, it was life changing because I started paying attention to my body because there was no reason I had been walking around with that pain for 72 hours except for I always say I have a high tolerance for pain. So I put my body through unnecessary pain when I should have gone to the doctor. So it was life changing. Wayne is saying I've been on blood thinners, had to do it for a year due to my old injuries and clotting blood. I could not drink alcohol, had all these restrictions, etc., and I get checked regularly still. So absolutely, Plavix is what I have to take now. It is not a blood thinner; it is an anticoagulant, and as I understand it, I mean it's kind of in that family. It does something without allowing platelets to stick together, if I'm explaining that correctly, if that is, I think I understand. So it's a little bit different from a blood thinner, but they do similar things. And you have to, Rosalind is saying it, Coumadin is terrible. You can't eat collard spinach or leafy greens. You have to be very careful about alcohol, like you're saying, and things such as vegetables that also contribute to challenges with your blood. You have to be very, very careful, and so I agree with that. Um, and there was a nurse. My first day in the hospital, there was a nurse who came in and she was trying to tell me to tell them not to give me Coumadin because she was explaining how terrible it was. And so I had that conversation with the doctor, my doctor then, and he was just saying like it's absolutely terrible, but it's the best thing for you right now to get you through where you are and what's going on. So it's like the devil that to get you through this challenging health condition. And so it is, something that I had to do. Um, yeah. Teresa is saying, so mine was like that too. I didn't know you can have scar tissue. Wow, I didn't have the murmur though. Yes, so my breathing capacity is a little not majorly challenged, but a little challenged because the blood clots left scar tissue, the same as they can see the MRI from the mini stroke that I had with the blood clot that um, impacted me to cause me to have a mini stroke. That's what they see that where they can see where the clot went or the clots lodged. I think is probably a better way to say it. It is scar tissue. Casey is asking if you don't mind answering what exactly caused you to have multiple blood clots. So they didn't do a lot of testing at that time. So blood clots can be caused from traveling like long trips and you're not um, moving your legs and allowing the blood to flow. Blood clots happen a lot on airplanes. People will be on an airplane and get off and kind of drop dead because they had a blood clot, and once they get off the airplane, it shoots up to their heart and kills them. I had traveled, but at the time period between when I had traveled and experienced the clots um, was too wide of a gap for it to have been what caused it. The only thing that we could point back to that made more sense was birth control that I was on at that time, and that was during the time when Seasonal and Seasonique, the birth control that kind of eliminated having a period, were all the rage. And my doctor put me on it, and I asked some questions, but again, didn't push enough to advocate, because you kind of, at some point I have felt like doctors are advocating for my best, and now as a grown adult, I recognize they're not. I recognize that they are often making money from drugs, things that I, in my younger years, didn't really pay attention to and focus on. And so where that those extended birth controls didn't sound like they made good sense, I did ask my doctor, and she was very confident that they were okay. And then later on, studies came out where young people were having blood clots relative to seasonal and seasonique. There were actually several lawsuits that happened around that time. So I'm pretty sure that's um, what it was relative to. Um, Wayne is saying it's a lifestyle change. People ask me why I do what I do now when it comes to my health, because they say you've slimmed down and you're doing yoga, growing your own food, etc. I tell them I have to. Absolutely. A lifestyle change, a mental change, like you see the light. Like I can honestly say so. Experiencing this last experience of this mini stroke, this TIA, I have shared that when I lost all of the control of my body, I lost the control of my left side when I couldn't speak. And I was sitting like that for 45, at least 45 minutes, but I was very aware inside, but I couldn't make my body do anything. Like I was very aware, like I was assessing myself. I knew the symptoms of a stroke, and I was doing a whole assessment. I was trying to make myself speak. So I was okay on the inside, but I couldn't control anything on the outside. And I was stuck like that for 45 minutes. And when I tell you that the the clarity that that experience provided, like, and I couldn't get to the phone. I was by myself. Just and I said to myself, Jewel, you can't die like this. Um, it's like crossing through a portal, really, in knowing I don't ever want to experience that again. And the gratitude that I have for being able to now be on this side of that experience, and knowing, like, my after that 45 minutes, and I mean I lost all body function. Um, and then it came back, and it came back for me to be able to call to get help. It came back, and it was there, and it has remained for me to walk out of my house, to get on a gurney, to get into the ambulance. And I haven't had to do any rehab. It is this hand. This is, I think the camera is does the reverse, but this is my left side of my body. And so to be able to gesture, to be able to, my face never drooped, but this whole side of my body was done, and then I couldn't make myself move. It is life changing. It's a portal that I went through that I will never be the same. It is a portal that says to me, like, you just can't go, you can't ignore that it happened, and you have to acknowledge that you've seen some things differently. And I've said I've been changed, and I'm not the same person I was before that 45 minutes. And for some people that might be a bad thing, the way I handle them now. But for me, it is, it was, I'm different, and I absolutely, it's a mental change, a lifestyle change. It is a change in who I am. Absolutely. Um, yeah, yeah. KC is saying, Here we are talking about perfection, fear of success, and comparison today, and a notification comes up on my screen about Tabitha's new YouTube video. I'll have to look at it and see what how that's connected. Tab is fabulous. Teresa is saying she did a DNA test to see if she was at risk again because all of my veins were shot after that. So that is part of the work. So in addition to understanding what they'll do about this PFO, this hole that I have in my heart, their part of the work is trying to determine, since I've had blood clots twice, even though it was a big time gap between them, they don't really know for sure that they're related. They could possibly not be related at all. But determining my propensity to blood clots is one of the things that has to be done, because as the doctor was explaining, we can close the hole in your chest, but if we close a hole and blood clots are just forming for some unknown reason, then what happens with the blood clot? Like, what does it do? Because then it's just in my heart, which is also really bad. So they have to do all of the testing. They're being very thorough, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I think I shared a couple of weeks ago, the need for advocating for yourself just has become so um, clear to me, because my primary care doctor that I've had for like 17 years hasn't been advocating for me in this process, and it's been interesting to me to become aware of that. And I've had to find another primary care doctor. It was, and I asked him, like, are you working for me, or are you working for my employer? Like, who are you are you actually working for? And I'm your patient, so that shouldn't even be a question. But anyway, it is the need for advocacy, the need to research, the need to prioritize myself. Uncharted territory. Part of me has said, well, with a leave, you don't get your full money, so that's a challenge, because um, now it is, how do I supplement that income, and how do I, at some point, maybe that income won't even be there, which is, the work that I need to do to grow what it is that I want to do. And so part of the comfortable space in my mental has said, well, go back to work. There's a check there, in that comfortable space. Um, and the invisibility of some disabilities, where I feel like, okay, I could go back to work and maybe do the work, um, even though my heart isn't healed. And my therapist explained it to me. She put it in an analogy. She said, your doctor has said that you have basically like a screen door over this hole in your heart. And your body is saying, well, maybe you go back to work from a comfortable state because you've got a check coming in. And she said, and that's the absolute worst environment for you to go to right now. She said, because if you think about it in the analogy that your doctor has shared, that's where the wind is blowing the hardest. That's the stress. The stress there is the wind that's blowing the hardest, and it then will make that door flap all day long. And that's the last place you need to be, if you want to put it in the analogy that the doctor gave you. But there's so much about to be said about feelings of complacency is probably a better word. The devil that you do know. Um, Complacency in, I know what my paycheck would look like every 2 weeks, because I do the work, I get paid. I do the work, I get paid. And the spirit of not rocking the boat. I can go get that money, and part of my brain is saying you can navigate the stress, and that's not true. That's absolutely not true. If that was the case, I wouldn't have experienced the mini stroke in the first place, if I could have navigated. My body absolutely told me that's not where I need to be. And so it's the managing of all of the swirling that happens when you're experiencing something new and something challenging, and something health related. And yeah. Um Teresa saying, Jewel, for high functioning people like you, it is a struggle every day to give up control. I think that was why I think she was, why Miss Black USA committed suicide. Was her name Chelsea? I think it was almost 2 years ago. I know exactly who you're talking about. For some reason, I think her name was Chelsea. She has a book that's out, and I have wanted to read her book. Her mom released her book, like her, I think, I'm pretty sure, I can't think of her name. Yes, but she was young. Um, oh, Tab's video title, Perfection versus Good Enough. I gotta watch that. I adore Tab. I adore Tab's journey from understanding where she was and where she is now, and watching um her level of success. And I think that's kind of the thing that's in, the highlight reels that you, but Tab is very open and honest about her journey. But it is like wanting to get to that level, but also being the fear in getting to that level, and the um for myself, like, I want to do all of the things, but then there's that uncomfortableness in pushing to do all of the things, and the perfection versus good enough. So Casey, thank you for sharing that. um I'll have to check it out. Thank you, Ronnie IQ. I'm glad I pulled through too. Um, Jewel, I love that negotiator. Um, Robert is saying, in my opinion, the body is a tool to help you. God loves it when you recognize your body and want to care for it to do His will. I tell myself to be physically and mentally ready for God's challenges. Ashe, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Cynthia saying, I spoke with a gentleman that has land down in the Wilmington area who's interested in the tiny house community. He would like to contact you. Cynthia, I think y'all know my email address, but I absolutely would um, love to talk to him. So I'm going to drop my email address in the chat. Thank you very much. Would love to talk to him too. Let's see. Let's see. Um, Wayne is saying, I hope they gave you compression clothing. The VA issues me compression sleeves to wear for my legs, arms to help me from clotting. Absolutely. So I haven't been issued medical issue. I haven't, but I do travel with um, compression socks because after 2007, I became more cognizant of it in where for working out as well as for travel. Lisa, good afternoon. Grand Rising, thank you. Um, Ronnie is saying you're lucky you got medical help so quickly after that is so important. Very fortunate because the that 45 minutes of being stuck in that place, it broke just long enough for me to be able to get my phone and call 911. And so and B fast is the acronym for strokes, and many strokes, because the quickness is what happens. And the interesting thing, I think I've shared that here, as it broke and I got my phone, I think I probably was going to go take a shower to get myself together to go to the hospital. But then as I got my phone and was getting up to get myself together, um, then another wave, this horrible wave of dizziness came through, almost like a tornado. Like it felt like my house was going through a tornado, and um, and that's when I called 911 because after it broke initially and I regained capacity, I'm pretty sure I was going to take a shower and take a little bit of time to get to the hospital, and I would have likely caused myself severe hardship because a TIA, a mini stroke, is a warning that a major stroke is on the way, and time is of the essence. And so, as that second wave came through, I went ahead and called 911 and got an ambulance out. And had I taken my time about it, I may have caused myself some unnecessary hardship, not even knowing it. Lisa, thank you so much. Um, yes, Teresa, I think you're talking about Plavix. Yes. V is saying, I appreciate your transparency regarding your health. You're motivating me to begin my build journey at 53 years. I'm still taking care of everyone else but myself, but now I need to begin my build. Absolutely. That's one of the things that is. important. And people have said, as I've shared my journey, a couple of women have said to me how they are now focused more on their health and things that their body has been saying to them, but they've been ignoring them, ignoring the body, and pushing through. And now they're not, because both, my doctor has said you're healthy, so it's concerning that I've experienced this TIA. I don't have any of the main markers that would be the cause for a TIA. I don't have high blood pressure. My cholesterol is managed. Um, I don't have diabetes. I don't have any of the things that would be where people would probably say, okay, so that makes sense that you experience that. I don't have any of that, and I'm relatively healthy. And so, um, for me, this stroke came out of absolutely nowhere, even though, I have shared also that I started experiencing this flutter. And I guess you can see I have on a heart monitor. I started experiencing this flutter in my chest, and I had said it to my primary care doctor, but I had associated the flutter with just anxiety because my job is very stressful. My manager is very stressful, and I had associated with it with anxiety versus something is actually happening to my heart. Because even though I said, I feel flutters in my chest, and my doctor listened with a stethoscope, but what he should have done was sent me to a specialist to do some more research into it, and I should have required that. I should have pushed for that. So again, it is the reason that I'm sharing, and I'm glad you're getting that from this story. The way that we have to look out for ourselves, and we have to advocate for ourselves, and we have to prioritize ourselves, because by the time we do all of those things, sometimes it's too late. And so, I'm happy that, you are getting that from this. Thank you, Kitty. I agree with that 100%, and it is the work that I have been trying to remind me of. My therapist, actually was shared a scripture when as I was talking about my need for control, and having, been a young single mother and needing to take care of, feed a child, and the things that where you need to control everything, and it's hard sometimes to really focus on faith when you also know you need to do the work to feed a child. And that's just how I've operated for all of my life. My daughter has grown, but it's how I've operated. And so the leaning on the faith and recognizing that is one of the things that I am focused on, and grateful that the signs show up to to confirm that I'm headed in that right direction. Um, so I thank you for that. Teresa, so the doctor said no more work, to just over broke. I'm not sure what you're saying, Teresa. Um, B is saying I'm healthy now, but cardiac issues run in my family. I need to get started and ensure that I am settled for the remainder of my life. Bravo to you for making changes and settling into your calling. Thank you. Um, and yes, get to it, V. Yes, absolutely. Get to it, especially if you know you've got that. Um, please do. Yes, Teresa, her name, I was pretty sure her name was Chelsea. And then I did read about Wendy Williams is experiencing something right now. That's very sad. Judith, I hope you are feeling better. Have a good weekend, and a wonderful week as well. I am going to sign off soon as well. P, have a great Sunday. Everyone must sign off now. Glad I got to spend my Sunday with the Soul Collective. See you next week. Um, Wayne is saying acupuncture has helped. We talked about that. I need to do that. And I haven't done deep massages because I know also the bruising that is associated with blood clotting. So I've been avoiding massaging. Frederick, thank you. I think you're here for a higher purpose or calling. Thank you. I feel that. It is again going back to walking in that and owning that is the piece where I am trying to align. So thank you. I receive that. Thank you. Um, thank you, Teresa. Um, Medical TENS unit. I had one of those. Okay. Thank you. Um, Thank you, V. I know you meant me, Jewel. Thank you so much. Thank you. I thank y'all. Y'all not gonna make me cry today. Thank you, V. Um, Ella saying, greetings, Jewel and community. We have to advocate for ourselves, health above all. I retired early. My job was killing me. I navigated the road to freedom and left. Amen. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It is beautiful, a beautiful thing to hear people share that's what they've done. My friends Stephanie and Rashida Exodus Summit, who are helping Black women navigate that space, and the stories that you hear of the horrors of corporate America that some of us are enduring, and then the beauty of freedom and escaping that and just seeing the change in people is a beautiful thing. So congratulations to you. I'm glad that you were able to do that. Thank you, Teresa. And that's right. If something feels off, address it immediately. But we'll prioritize everything else except that. But I definitely learned that and agree that that is what we have to do. Thank you, Frederick. Thank you, Ronnie. A delight to have you have joined us. Thank you so much. Um, Ella saying the people in my job environment was extremely stressful and toxic. I appreciate you and your authenticity. You're helping so many people, praying for your good health. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, it is one of the things that just stuck with me this week. So my primary care, when I said my primary care wasn't advocating for me, my primary care was initially trying to send me back to work on February the 1st. And I was like, I'm not going back on February 1st. I haven't had my cardiologist follow-ups, and he was convinced that I could go back on February 1st. And then he extended it to February 28th. Um, and that's when I started talking to the cardiologist and finding another primary care doctor. And so as I got it extended out, just this week I got it extended out because I was tapped to go back to work on the 28th. And my manager reached out because she hadn't caught up with all of the emails. And so she reached out to talk about me returning to the office on the 28th. And this is the second time she's reached out to talk about work in this experience since I had this experience on December the 23rd. And the thing that stuck out for me in all of this is not once has she asked me how I am. Not it doesn't start with how are you. She starts talking about the work and returning to work. And um and one of the things that for my spirit, I had to say to myself, Jewel, like if there was any question in your mind about the person that, because I've said my job is stressful, but the worst part of it was the leadership and my manager, and that was the most stressful part of my job. And so I said to myself, like if there's any question for you about whether that person is someone that you want to work again, this is the answer, because there's something to be said about human basic decency in asking. I had a major life experience. You worked with me for almost a year. And even if you hadn't, a stranger on the street that have had a major life experience, the first thing you want to lead with is, how are you? In a decent, caring, and compassion, um, basic human decency. And so the fact that that is not in two conversations been the way she's led, to me says a lot. And it's not the environment that I want to be in, that I will be in. And so those are the things that we tolerate for a paycheck. And the question is, is how does that impact our health? And I have my answer. I know how it impacted my health, and it's not something I'm willing to risk anymore. And so we are in those experiences and not um, and the consequences to our health is just a lot, and sometimes you don't get the second opportunity like I have at this time, and it's not something that I'm willing to risk again. So I thank you very much. Oh, I see what you're saying, Teresa. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, thank you, Frederick. Um, Ronnie is IQ is saying my mother was a stroke victim. I'm interested in the tiny house movement, and now I have the courage to contact you about it. Um, I am glad you had the courage. That door has always been open. I love to talk tiny houses, so I'm glad you've gained the courage to talk to me. But you didn't need courage to talk to me. And I look forward to. I hope your mom is okay. I look forward to connecting with you. Um, I love our Sundays too. Thank you so much. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, V. Um, Cynthia saying self care first and foremost. Foremost, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's the things. It is like I said this past week. I have recognized all the ways God is talking to me, and my therapist said something about how you experience something, and the further you get away from it, you kind of, it can be a horrible experience, but the further you get away from it, the less you focus on the horribleness of it. I'm not romanticizing it because I'm not romanticizing any of that. But the horror of it lessens as the further you get away from it. And so I'm not in the experience every day of how stressful the job was and how stressful it was dealing with my in the atmosphere, and but these are the ways that I'm being reminded that it was real, and that stress and the challenges were real, and the fact that you don't even ask how I am is one of those things that just just was like, okay, it's about the work, and that's it, not about me as even a human being. um you're right, they do not care. You're being called to a higher purpose. God will provide. I know from experience. Thank you, Elle. Absolutely. And that's the trusting I have to do. Um, um, I've had to have my doctor to call her HR to do a cease and desist with my job. Come to Jesus meeting. Yeah, yeah. All right, good people. Thank you so much for spending your Sundays with me. I um so appreciate these conversations. They are so much of what is keeping me together, and I appreciate y'all. I am going to get myself together and not cry. Um, I thank y'all. I thank you for this community. All right, I'm not crying. Um, Thank you, Teresa. Um, Thank y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. Thank you for spending this time with me. Tashay, Ansel, thank you for joining us today. I have to check out Tab's video. Thank you for calling that out for me. Um, Thank y'all. I just appreciate y'all so much. And next Sunday, I will have a guest. I have a couple of guests that I'm lining up, so I will be back with some guests very soon. Um, Thank you, Elle. Thank you. I have received that. Amen. Ashe. Sentiment one is saying I also survived a mini stroke with left side weakness lingering from 2014. Focus on health. There are other ways of earning money. Absolutely. I'm absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Not stressing. Thank you. Teresa, we have to get together. We're in the city. When I'm back home, we have to thank you, Teresa. I know that and I feel it and I appreciate you all so much. All right, I'm going to close out before I do a full on cry. Um, V, thank you. Looking forward to meeting you as well. Thank you so much. All right, let me do my closeout and thank you for that. We are doing let me drop the link, the tiny house um, event in April. I'm going to drop the link to that. Um, Patreon, that community, we're getting it going and in some deeper private conversations over there. So join me there, please. That is the tiny house event. Um, and I'll drop my Patreon link. Please join me on Patreon. Um, Teresa is saying, please do what you love. It will bless you so much. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. This is what I love, and my Sundays are a blessing. So thank you. This is part of that. L, tears are healing. I agree with that. I have joked for years that I should get my tear ducts removed because I do cry. And I agree that they are absolutely healing. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you so much. So thank y'all. Happy Sunday. I'm going to do my closeout. You all have a good rest of your Sunday and a good week, and we will talk soon. All right. Again, this is our community conversation that we have on Sunday. I hope you'll join us on Sundays. We are alternating between our conversations on intimate spaces with folks in and around the tiny house community. The What's Your Question, where we're focused on um, a specific tiny house subject. Thank you, Rosalind. Love you much as well. Thank you so much. Um, in our community conversation. So we're going to be doing one of the three. Robert is saying, "Where's Crystal?" She'll probably she's ditching the family. Um, she will comment, I'm sure. I'm sure she had a good reason for not being here. Her and husband must be doing something amazing because she's usually joining us. So we're gonna give her some grace and then laugh that she's gonna read this and crack up laughing. So thank you, Robert. And thank you, Robert. We missed you. So glad you're here. We'll connect next Sunday. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much. Take care.